to success and prosperity. The clinking of glasses blends with the hum of voices. The restaurant is filled with light and music. The dimly lit hall, cozy tables, and a stage with a jazz band. At the company's anniversary, most of the employees have gathered. The atmosphere is light, but inside me is the usual composed demeanor. I, Emily Carter, the CEO, ensure that everyone feels comfortable. A habit honed over the years. Saying the right things, smiling at the right moment, showing interest in the team's achievements. The celebration is a success, but for me, it doesn't differ much from other corporate events. Conversations about projects, prospects, plans. Part of the company is discussing the successes of the year, while others are engaged in informal chats. I hold a glass of red wine and move from group to group, catching the grateful glances of employees. For them, this evening is a chance to relax, feel their importance, to be a part of something bigger. And then, my gaze catches on him. Alex Hunter, the new head of the analytics department. He joined the company just 3 months ago, but has already become one of the key figures in the team. Confident, calm, reserved. He doesn't try to draw attention to himself, but somehow it seems to find him anyway. People are drawn to him. Colleagues laugh, discussing something passionately, and I can see that he's genuinely engaged in the conversation. Why do I look at him longer than I should? Our gazes meet. He notices me and smiles easily. I turn away and take a sip of wine. It doesn't matter. Just a new employee, a good specialist who is seamlessly integrated into the team. Emily. The voice of the CFO pulls me out of my thoughts. I switch to discussing the strategic plan, but after a while I feel his presence again. He isn't doing anything special, just standing a few meters away, yet for some reason his presence feels more intense than anyone else's. The celebration continues. The evening gradually turns into the late hours. I'm used to keeping my distance, used to being the one who controls the situation. But something tells me, tonight everything will be different. Tired of endless talks about strategy and finance? I look up. It's Alex. He stands confidently with a slightly mocking smile, holding a glass of whiskey. You think it's that easy to take me out of work mode? I respond in the same tone, but I can feel he's effortlessly disrupted my usual rhythm. I don't think so, but I decided to give it a try. He takes a sip and watches me thoughtfully. Too formal an atmosphere for an evening that's supposed to be enjoyable. I'm enjoying myself just fine. I answer calmly. Really? I narrow my eyes slightly, and he immediately raises his hands in mock surrender. All right, I won't argue. But I'm sure a walk on the terrace would be more pleasant than this noise. The terrace. Cold, fresh air, the lights of the city at night, the chance to escape the center of attention. I pretend to hesitate. But within a few seconds, I realize I've already made up my mind. Sounds tempting, I say, and he gives a slight nod, inviting me to follow. We step outside. Behind us is the restaurant, muffled conversations and music. On the terrace, almost no one is around, only a light breeze stirring my hair, bringing with it the scent of an autumn evening. This is better, he says, resting his elbows on the wrought iron railing. Never thought I'd see you outside the office. Disappointed? Quite the opposite, pleasantly surprised. I smirk, but I feel he's not just giving me a compliment. I thought you were always serious, unreachable. But today I see that's not quite the case. I don't answer right away. There's something in his words that hits home, something that makes me pause. He looks at me differently than the others. I'm not exactly what you think I am, Alex, I say quietly, not even knowing why I said it. He doesn't rush to respond, just watches me as if giving me the chance to finish the conversation with myself. How about coffee? He unexpectedly suggests. Instead of wine and formal toasts? I look at him. A simple suggestion. Nothing unusual, but for some reason it feels different. And I realize I'll say yes before I have time to reconsider. Hot coffee in the cool air of the terrace. We stand by the wrought iron railing, watching the city lights twinkling below. Alex is calm, focused, as though he doesn't assign any significance to the moment or to the fact that we're here alone. But something in his presence makes this evening feel special. What do you think? Why do people work so much? He suddenly asks. I raise an eyebrow. Do you have a theory? Of course. Some work for money, others for ambition. Some are simply afraid to stop because then they'll have to ask themselves questions they don't want to answer. I take a sip of my coffee. He's damn right. And which category do you fall into? I ask, hiding a smile. Me? He squints slightly. Maybe the second. Or the third. So, you're afraid of something too? He doesn't answer right away. There's no one in this world without fears. Some just hide them deeper than others. I stay silent. Suddenly, it feels like the conversation has gone too far, but surprisingly, I don't want to interrupt it. And you? He continues. What? Me. Which category? I probably haven't thought about it in a long time. I answer honestly, and that honesty scares me a little. He looks at me, and I feel like he sees a little more than others are used to seeing. I think the third, he finally says. I smirk. You're too confident in your judgments. Only when I see that I'm right. I pretend not to pay much attention to his words. Somewhere in the hall, another toast is heard. The music gets louder and applause erupts. I think it's time to go back, I say, setting down my empty glass. Of course. He nods, but I catch his attentive gaze on me. We return to the restaurant. The light, voices, music, everything seems the same as before. But as soon as I blend back into the crowd, I realize I'm looking for his gaze, and he's already looking at me. The morning in the office starts as usual, with meetings, reports, and an endless chain of emails. But today, I feel it differently. Everything around seems slightly off, not quite like it usually is. It's as if the familiar routine suddenly takes on a different hue, subtle, but still present. When I walk into my office, there's a stack of papers in front of me, another report. I sit down, open the first page, and immediately notice how the light outside changes. Right across from my desk, through the glass, Alex is walking by. He's talking to colleagues, and although nothing in his behavior stands out, I push the papers aside, trying to focus, but my thoughts keep drifting back to him. Thoughts I don't want to acknowledge, but they stubbornly won't let go. The next moment, he enters my office with documents. Just another usual task, nothing remarkable. He places them on the desk, quickly says a few words about the deadlines, and heads back to his project. But he lingers. He looks at me a little longer than usual, and I catch that look. He doesn't say anything unnecessary, but I sense something different in it, as if he's testing how much I notice his attention. I avert my gaze, nervously stretching my hand to adjust my hair, even though I know it looks unnatural. But still, he doesn't leave right away. His presence fills the space. I feel it physically. Is there anything else you need? I ask, trying to regain control of the conversation. He answers with a slight smile, but I notice how his eyes linger on me, as if he's expecting something. No, Emily. I just wanted to make sure everything's fine. And here, I realize that his words sound different than the last time. I could convince myself that it's all just coincidences, but there's something in this feeling that's more significant than mere work moments. When he leaves, I'm alone again. The silence of the office, the hum of the corridor. And when I sit down to work again, it's no longer so easy to concentrate. Arriving in another city for a meeting with investors, I didn't expect these 2 days to be so pivotal. Meetings, negotiations, reports, the usual work routine. But there's something strange about this business trip that I can't explain. During the flight, he turns out to be my seatmate. I sit by the window, and he's next to me with his laptop, but soon closes it and starts a conversation. We both sit in silence, but the words he speaks seem to break the usual barrier between us. I guess you didn't think I'd be sitting next to you, he says with a slight smile. I won't be intrusive, but I do think this is a good opportunity to talk about something beyond work topics. I frown, but I can't brush him off. We begin talking about things you usually don't discuss with colleagues. About life, what matters to us, the people who inspire us. Sometimes work consumes us, and we forget there's a world beyond it, Alex says, staring out the window. I often think about that. Alex doesn't just speak. He makes me reflect on what I'm missing, on things I haven't asked myself in a long time. We fall silent, and everything feels simple, light. The words flow more freely than they ever have, and suddenly I realize how strangely easy it is to talk to him. In the evening, at the hotel, after a tense day, we both end up at the same bar. I sit at a table, order a cocktail, and a few minutes later he joins me. We continue our conversation, but now it's no longer about work. It's about what worries us, our future, and meaning. I'm surprised by how easily we talk. It feels like a conversation between old friends who haven't seen each other in years. But there's something more. An almost invisible thread pulling us toward each other. Have you ever thought that maybe we give too much of our time to work? His words sound different now. Not like in the office. Sometimes I feel like I'm not getting anything done and life is just passing me by. I fall silent. His words seem to resonate in my mind. They echo something I haven't thought about in a long time. I begin to realize that this evening, this conversation, is different from all the others. When we return to our rooms, his words stay with me. I can't fall asleep. All the thoughts are tangled in my head, and I replay the phrases he said over and over again. For some reason, they won't leave my mind. I close my eyes, but I can't shake the feeling that this conversation was important. Important enough that I can't ignore it, even if I really want to. I fall asleep late, and in the morning I wake up with a heaviness in my head. The meetings with the investors proceed as planned. Numbers, presentations, strategy discussions. At some point, I catch myself acting mechanically, as if my body is here but my mind is far away. Alex also behaves professionally. He's focused, confident, answering questions without excess emotion. But every time our gazes accidentally meet, I feel that the conversation from last night left a mark not only on me. After the long day, I want to exhale. I head down to the hotel bar, and he's there again. He doesn't seem surprised when I approach. Long day, he says calmly, pushing a glass of whiskey toward himself. Like always, I order a glass of white wine. We don't discuss work. There's no point anymore. The conversation flows naturally again. We talk about what inspires us, places we've been, books we read over and over. I feel at ease. Truly. You're always trying to control the situation, he says unexpectedly, tilting his head. But I think sometimes you should just let yourself be. What do you mean? You take on too much. Always in the leader's role, always responsible for everything. I understand, it's part of you, but sometimes it's good to simply allow yourself to be human. I smirk. You speak as if you've known me for a long time. Sometimes to understand someone, you don't need years. He pauses and then adds, sometimes just a few honest conversations are enough. I don't know what to say. He walks me to my room. I feel tired, but not physically. There's no hint of pressure in his gaze, no attempt to achieve anything. He's simply there. Rest, he says softly. I enter the room, close the door behind me, and lean against it. I stand in the darkness for a long time, listening to my own thoughts. He's right. I've been trying to hold everything together for too long. But now, for the first time in a long time, I have the feeling that I'm losing something. And I don't even know what exactly. I return home late in the evening. The apartment smells of freshly brewed coffee and something warm, cozy. Josh is in the kitchen, setting the table. Are you hungry? His voice is calm, familiar as always. A little, I reply and sit down at the table. He's made dinner, waiting for me. Everything is as it should be. Everything is just like always. How was the trip? I take a sip of water. It was good. The negotiations were tough, but we got the agreements we needed. Alex did a great job with the analytics. The name slips out effortlessly. It's a fleeting reaction that only someone who knows him as well as I do would catch. Glad to hear that. He smiles, but his gaze lingers on me a little longer than usual. I lower my eyes to my plate. We eat. We talk about little things. I tell him about the hotel, the dull menu on the plane, the long meetings. I'm not lying, but I leave out the most important part. The atmosphere at the table is strange. It's as if everything is the same, but I feel an invisible thread stretching between us. A distance that wasn't there before. Or maybe it's always been there and I just didn't want to notice? After dinner, I stand in the shower for a long time, letting the water wash away the tiredness. But along with the fatigue, the thoughts don't leave. I lie down in bed, Josh beside me. He says he missed me. He lies closer, kisses me on the cheek. Everything is familiar. Everything is right. But inside, there's emptiness. I close my eyes and I don't see this house, this room. I see the lights of the city at night, the terrace of a restaurant. A man telling me that sometimes you just need to be human. Sleep doesn't come. I stare at the ceiling and realize something has changed. I have changed. The office continues as usual. Project after project, reports, meetings, calculations. But now, I feel how each morning is pierced not only by the desire to do everything perfectly, but by an invisible weight that I can't shake off. It seems that every task has lost its former ease. My thoughts constantly slip away, and I catch myself repeatedly searching for his gaze. Alex enters my office, as always, with work papers. He quickly explains the details, asks something, but stays a little longer than necessary. Is there anything else, Emily? He asks, as if unaware of how strange his question sounds, as if he already knows that his delay stirs something inside me. I can't help but notice how his eyes pass over me with an unusual attentiveness, as if trying to understand what lies behind my usual words and expressions. We both know there is something more between us now than just colleagues. It's not expressed in words or actions, but I can feel it stretching, like an invisible line between us, becoming more tangible with each passing day. No, everything's fine, I answer, unable to withstand his gaze, quickly looking away and focusing back on my laptop screen. He doesn't say anything more, but his presence lingers. I feel how he captures my attention even when we're not speaking. And I catch myself realizing that I can no longer return to that old world where everything was under control, where no look could distract me. The realization comes slowly, but I understand. The situation is slipping out of control. Each time he appears in the office, it's like a small spark, making me burn more than necessary. And although my colleagues notice nothing, I already feel how my usual calmness is starting to dissolve. Words are becoming foreign, thoughts that I can't suppress. He finds more and more reasons to stop by my desk, to discuss work matters with a subtle hint of something personal. The phrases he approaches me with more frequently carry something beyond ordinary business concerns. And although no one in the team notices anything unusual, it's becoming clearer to me that we're both crossing a line that once seemed unchangeable. And the longer we continue like this, the harder it becomes to stay within the usual boundaries. This evening is nothing like I expected. My colleagues and I are headed to a private presentation of a new product from one of our suppliers. The loft is, as always, stylish and modern, and the people here seem a little lighter than in the office. They laugh, joke, discuss designs, technologies. But amidst this typical corporate event, something immediately stands out. Alex. He ends up next to me, as usual, with that carefree expression on his face. We start talking about the new product, its possibilities, but the conversation quickly shifts to something more personal, something I haven't spoken about, even to myself, in a long time. Emily, what really brings you joy in life? His question comes out of nowhere, and I feel my words hang in the air. I'm not ready to answer. That's not such an easy question. I try to joke, but he keeps looking at me with that intense gaze as though expecting not just an answer, but a revelation. I think you think about others too often. He says softly, almost inaudible amidst the noise around us. You're always in control, always solving problems. But what really matters to you? What brings you joy that's not related to work? I stay silent. I'm not ready. Too much time has passed to answer such a question. And even if I wanted to, I'm not sure I could. I don't know. I exhale, and this admission feels like it's not even coming from me. I haven't asked myself that question in a long time. Alex smiles with a hint of sadness. Maybe it's time to start. You can't live only for what others expect of you. I look at him. I can't find an answer, but I understand. There's something to this. Maybe it's these conversations that make me feel different from before. He's touched something important, and now I can't ignore it. Soon we're talking about little things again, about work. But for me, the conversation hasn't ended. His words remain, like an unfinished question that I must ask myself. The night is winding down, but I can't escape the thought that this evening has been a turning point. The day after the presentation went by just like any other. Negotiations, reports, new tasks. But I can't focus. My thoughts keep drifting back to that evening, to that conversation with Alex. His words about how I think too much about others and forget about myself are echoing louder in my head. I try to keep working. It's as if I need to make a decision, but I don't know what it should be. I'm afraid of it. Alex walks into my office, as usual, with work papers. He places them on the desk and stands there, his gaze never leaving me, and I feel time slow down. You're going through something, Emily, he says unexpectedly. I know you always keep everything under control, but now you've changed somehow. I don't know what to say. He's right. I've changed, but how can I admit that out loud? How do I explain that his words have started to break down walls I've spent years building? That's not true, I say, but I know I'm lying. He stands there quietly, studying me. His gaze is the same, direct and open, like never before. He doesn't rush me, doesn't pressure me. He's just waiting for me to make a decision. And in that silence, I realize he knows everything is different now. If you want everything to stay the same, I won't push, he says. But if you're ready to talk, honestly, without these masks we wear at the office, I'll be here. It sounds simple, but I feel how hard it is for me to take that step. I don't know what to do. I finally say, breaking down. I can't hide the emotions I've long suppressed. Everything I've been used to controlling is slipping out of my grasp, and I don't know how to handle it. Alex is silent, giving me time to process my words. Then he speaks softly. We all face this moment at some point. The choice. You can keep everything in your hands, but sometimes it's better to let go. To understand that you're not obligated to be strong all the time. I can't hide anymore. My heart is beating faster, and I feel the wall I've built crumbling. But I still can't make the choice. He stays there, standing next to me, asking for nothing, expecting nothing. I realize this is the moment when I have to make a decision, but I can't do it right now. I'm not ready, but I know that soon I will have to. When I come home, everything seems the same as it was before. Josh meets me at the door, his kind eyes filling the room with warmth. He hugs me as if there's no distance between us. I missed you, he says, breathing in my scent. How was the meeting? I smile, trying to seem natural, but inside everything has changed. Everything has flipped upside down. He doesn't know that I spent an entire evening in the company of someone who has left a mark on my soul. Someone who made me feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Everything went fine. We discussed the project. Everything is on track. I reply, not knowing how to formulate my answer. He sets the table and we sit down to eat. His talk about money, new plans for the house, what we need to buy for the garden seems so distant to me. And I start to realize that there is some kind of inexplicable emptiness in our life that I never noticed before. Everything feels familiar, everything feels right, but something important is missing. I tried to get back my old confidence. I tried to believe again that everything would be as it was before. But deep down, I feel that the familiar, everything is planned no longer satisfies me. We finish dinner, and I see Josh trying to talk about something light. I remain silent, and he doesn't notice. He talks about needing to drop off documents at the office, discussing our summer vacation plans, and I start to understand that maybe I'm losing something far more important than I thought. But I can't explain to myself what it is. The next morning, I walk into the office again, and as soon as I cross the threshold, I feel his gaze. Alex. He's standing by my desk, looking at some papers. He approaches me, as usual, pretending everything is normal. But it doesn't feel normal anymore. He knows something. He feels something. And perhaps I feel the same way. Good morning, Emily. His voice, as always, is confident and calm. But now I hear something else in it. He's not trying to hide his interest. He's not concealing what he feels. I know he truly sees me. I catch myself thinking that I can't keep working the way I did before. He's getting closer. His presence is growing stronger, and the more I try to avoid his gaze, the more obvious it becomes that I can't distance myself. You know you can talk to me, he says quietly, not breaking eye contact. Not everything in life has to be perfect. I start to lose track of things. His words sound like temptation, but I can't resist. Suddenly, everything that seemed wrong no longer does. I look at him and realize I don't want to walk away from this. I want to experience this feeling. I want to feel like I can allow myself more. He comes to me later. We both know the step we need to take, one that's long overdue. And though I try to tell myself I can't do it, I feel like I no longer can stop. We step out of the office and head toward the empty conference room where no one will see us. My hand trembles as he takes it. His eyes speak more than words. And I understand that I can't hide my feelings anymore. Are you ready? His question cuts straight to my heart. I nod, unable to utter a single word. We both know this is irreversible. The day goes on, but I can't return to my normal life. I feel my steps growing more unsure. I come home, and Josh is the same, with his carefree gaze and familiar concern. We talk, we eat dinner, but I know I won't be able to hide this from him much longer. That evening with Alex has become something more than I thought. My life is no longer the same. With every look, every word, every moment, I realize that there is no turning back for me. I've made my choice. And even if that choice destroys everything that was, I know that I can't keep living in a world where everything seems right but is truly empty inside me. I wake up in the morning, and I know I can't hide the truth anymore. When I meet Alex's gaze in the office, I feel how his eyes tell me what I've been thinking about for a long time. He understands it all without words. And I understand that now I must take responsibility for what has happened and for what will come next. I walk into the apartment and immediately know it's over. Josh is at the stove, reheating dinner, completely unaware that this evening will change our lives forever. Everything looks familiar. The soft light of the lamp, the smell of fresh bread, the quiet music coming from the speaker. But inside me, there's emptiness. I close the door behind me, take off my coat, and stand frozen by the threshold. You're early, Josh says, not looking up. I want to say something neutral, something that could delay this conversation, but there's no point anymore. We need to talk. My voice sounds hollow, and he immediately goes still. Josh slowly turns around. I see the wariness in his eyes. Something happened? I run my hand over my forehead, gathering my strength. Yes, something happened. He sets the spatula down and turns to face me fully. You're scaring me, Emily. I take a deep breath. I I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending everything's fine. His face changes. I see him quickly running through possibilities in his mind, but he's still hoping he's wrong. What do you mean? My heart is pounding, but I can't stop. I've changed, Josh. I tried to fight it, tried to convince myself it was just exhaustion, that it would pass, but I swallow, summoning my courage. I don't feel like I'm part of this marriage anymore. He's silent. Is it because of him? His voice is quiet, but I hear how hard he's trying to hold himself together. I close my eyes. Yes. Josh takes a sharp breath and steps back a little. God. He runs a hand over his face, as if trying to process what's been said. You're not even trying to deny it. I can't, I answer honestly. He looks at me, for a long time, intently. I can tell he wants to say something, to accuse, to shout, to ask how I could. But instead, he sits down and exhales slowly. How long? It doesn't matter. How long, Emily? His voice cracks with anger. I close my eyes. A few weeks. He smirks, bitterly, painfully. A few weeks. And I thought everything was fine. And now it's my turn to freeze. Really? My voice becomes softer. Josh, we haven't been fine in a long time. We live like two acquaintances, talk about the weather, pretend everything's as it should be. But don't you feel that there's an emptiness between us? He jumps up. Of course, I felt it. He clenches his fists. But I thought it was just a phase. That we'd get through it. And you just decided to leave. I don't want to lie. I say honestly. He looks at me like I'm a stranger. You've already made up your mind, haven't you? Yes. The silence fills the room. Then go, he says finally. I hesitate for a moment, but then I realize he won't change his mind. I grab my coat, the last thing that connects me to this home, and head for the door. Before I leave, I turn around. I'm sorry, but Josh doesn't look at me anymore. I close the door behind me. A step forward. Into a new life.